Well, I will start this meeting. Did you? Yes, for everyone who has missed the live meeting today, we apologize. We did have some technical difficulties getting started, but hopefully you're here today on the replay. For those of you joining us, really appreciate you being here. We're going to do a collage project today that is a step up from all of the different projects we've been doing for the last few weeks. Lucy Larson is the Director of Education for Children's Education at Palo Alto Arts Center. She's going to be with us on the chat today, so please, if you have any questions on your lower right, please click that, and so you can talk to her on the chat. If you have any questions for me as we go today. This is a really fun project because it is about animals and people, and we're going to focus on creating an eye today, and we're going to be doing some of those similar concentric shapes and a lot of the similar type of processes we did to create our rainbow and our shapes and our color study. And the checkerboard, and we're going to add all of those things into this project today. So I will show you how to do that. We're going to be using the same tools that we've been using every single week, which is some paper, scissors of some sort, a pen of some sort. It doesn't have to be a Sharpie marker. It could be, you know, a crayon. It could be a Crayola marker or something like that. And then we also have, you know, your chosen glue source for the day. I have a glue stick. I have an Elmer's glue. And I also use a product by Golden Medium for the professional side of you folks who are there today to kind of learn about that. But the most important idea is that we're all stuck at home and we're using the materials that we have home. The most important thing that we have, of course, is our magazine paper that we have. And so I hope you guys have put a few magazines to the side to help you with this project today, because we're going to jump right in. I'm going to teach you how to draw an eye, and this is a really easy way to draw an eye. And this is going to be more of a human eye, although I'm best known for doing doggy eyes. I also like to do human eyes too, and this is my latest little COVID quarantine kind of project. This is a Matisse portrait that I did with collage paper, and as you can see, the eyes are very simple but also very expressive, and you can really do that really well with magazine paper with just a little bit of some tricks and some techniques that I will share with you. And guys, this is what we're going to be creating today with that in mind. We're going to be creating this really cool eyeball, and it has lots of fun things that we can add on to it. These are tree branches, different colors, and we're going to talk about the different layers of the eye that I'm going to draw here. And I'm going to help you create this in a really simple way. So hopefully you have everything with you today, and we'll get started. First of all, we're going to draw 3 small, medium, and larger squares on our blank piece of paper. And so feel free to be creative with that. I start with a fairly, almost like the size of a nickel or a dime size square. And then I'm going to create a silver dollar type of square that's going to go right out around the outside of that. Oh, I'm saying square. I'm getting feedback. I'm saying square. We're actually doing circles. If you're drawing squares, that's going to mess you up. Then you're going to have a weird looking eye there. But okay, so we're going to go with the 3rd circle. And as you can see what kind of shape that creates, if you can imagine, that almost starts to look like an eyeball. And we're going to do, this is the little glint in the eye, and we're going to do a little white little dot in there, and then we're going to use this as the pupil and the iris of the eye. We're going to do a couple more circles. So that's actually 4 circles. And then we're going to do 2 larger almond type of shapes that are going to go right around that eye. And you don't have to have this be perfect. This doesn't have to look symmetrical. I draw eyes all the time, and I think that there's a lot of fun kind of ways to make eyes look either mean or happy or sad. There's a lot of expression in the eyes, and that's why we're doing this project today, because you could probably do this 10 times in a row and you get 10 different little subtle differences with the kind of feeling that you get when you draw an eye. And everybody has a lot of expression in their eye, even dogs and even babies. And it's a great way to practice your drawing skills, drawing this over and over and over again. So as you can see from here to here, the next step we're going to do, guys, is we're going to either take a ruler or we're going to do freehand, and I'm going to do a big cross right in the middle of this eyeball. And it looks like we're almost going to cross this thing out. Well, we're going to do a big, not an X, but an actual cross or plus sign. And we're going to try to cut this thing into four even sections. Best we can, guys. If you feel like one section has more or the other, that's okay. We really just want to make this big kind of cross-section grid. And that's very easy to do. Again, if yours looks a little bit different than mine, that's okay. We're all here to practice, and we can always start again if we have any. If we mess up at all, we can always start this over, okay? And so the last item I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a giant box around this eye. And that's really cool because it kind of gives us these quadrants and these different planes. And from this point, guys, this is really the jump off point for me. And there's a lot of fun things that can be done right away from this. And I'm going to just start into the collaging. And so again, what I want you to think about is the anatomy of the eye. If you've ever looked at your own eye or you look at your mom and dad's eye, you can see that there's so many different layers. And this is kind of the white of the eye. And we all know what that is. And as you get closer and closer in the eye, you can see everybody has the color of their eyes. This is what people refer to, what color are your eyes? This is the iris. And inside here is the pupil, which kind of gets larger and smaller based on how much light your eye can take in. And so what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to get really creative right now. And as much as I know about looking at my own eye or looking at a model of an eye, what I'm really going to have fun doing is just doing some color study right now. And so with this being the lighter part of the eye, I'm going to keep some of the tones in this area light. I'm going to keep some of the areas in this real dark. And then with these 4 quadrants out here, I'm going to get real creative. And I'm going to start doing my collage now. I'm going to break out my paper. I'm going to break out my glue. And I'm going to use, and I'm just going to start ripping, tearing, and adding right away to my collage. A lot of people like to do a lot of preparation work right away, but for me, it's very exciting. The best part of this whole project is being able to do the cutting and the pasting. And you'll see, sometimes I'll use scissors. These are my big scissors. These are like for like fabric and for quilts. You guys can use whatever you have. It doesn't really matter. But I'm going to choose one of these quadrants, and there's these big areas that I'm just going to go in and I'm going to fill it in. And again, it doesn't have to be like real life. On this particular picture, for example, I did lots of different things that were similar to what a human eye will look like, but kind of different. I kind of got creative. You know, you can see that this is actually not part of the drawing, but came from some of the pictures that I found in my magazine that were some tree branches. And I was really able to use those really effectively to kind of as the eyelashes in my eye. And I kind of did a little bit of a different, I ran out of the tree branches on this side. So I decided to maybe just do some smaller little lashes. And I could continue that all the way around. And if I really wanted to, there's lots of different variations that I could do. But one of the things, guys, I really tried to focus on with this particular project is all of these quadrants that we're going to be filling in with grays and greens and yellows. And then this again is the pupil, has these little quadrants in here where you can still, this is one circle, but it has 4 quadrants that you can kind of give variations of colors to. And what that really will allow you guys to do is create this almost like light is reflecting off of your eye. And if you think about, that's what your eye does, is it really takes in light. And so it's really fun to play with different colors that are subtle and similar, but also are just slightly different, and give you this almost like you're looking at a real person, as opposed to looking at something really flat, like you're looking at a book or something. You want to create maybe an eye that really kind of almost, you go, is that real? Is that a real eye? Or, make do a double take. So I'm going to do some cutting and pasting with you guys. I hope you're following along with me. And again, I love the ideas of like, okay, I have blue eyes, and so I'm going to choose blue for my iris today. And I just encourage you to be creative and not to get stuck if you're looking for a particular color. To be flexible, to be creative, to kind of, as you're looking through, your magazine paper, you browse, and maybe you're looking for some kind of a yellow or a kind of a cream color, but you find something that's a little bit more orange or a little bit more brown, and you can use those variations like this here. This is a great color, for instance, for a skin tone. And, instead of using one particular color or another, I use a range of colors. And that's what I mean by being creative, is actually kind of, what's really fun about collage and looking through magazines is kind of the discovery process, guys. So I never know, as I'm looking for different colors, what am I going to find here? This is a beautiful dark red and a blue. And I look at that and I go, hey, how can I incorporate this into this? Is there something in here that I can use? And so and I continue to do that over and over again as I look for paper. And so I'm back and forth, cutting and gluing and readjusting and stepping back. But this drawing that we did at the beginning of the class, guys, is really gives us the roots to stay kind of focused on what we're doing. I just broke this yellow down into these little squares here, and then I'm just going to start gluing those right into one of these quadrants right here on my paper, and I'll show you what that looks like here in a minute. I have a little tip about glue. Some people, I've mentioned this in past classes, but Elmer's glue is just fine. I love using glue stick. I actually use the glue stick and I go right onto my paper. But when I'm using the applicator, they call this an applicator, guys, the orange little thing there, I will actually use that and put that right on my paper. I just feel like I have a little more control over my paper. And then I will place that paper right on, or that paper right onto the canvas or the paper that I'm working on here. And I work fast. That's I think one of the big differences I see between younger students or people who are just new to collage in general. I really make some quick decisions. I see something and I instinctually go, I can use that, and I don't think about it too hard. So I think there's plenty of time, guys, to kind of analyze your art a little bit later on. I like to do my art in kind of some stages where I'll do a little bit of art right now, and then maybe today I'll have some lunch, and then I'll go back and I'll look at the art that I did and see what kind of things I can adjust to my artwork. Because that's what's really fun about collage, guys, is that I can put these, these squares down right here. I did a little other eye on this side too. I was thinking maybe I'd mess up and I'd have to show you guys another example. But, I start putting this paper down right away. And then I start to just, I can determine, you know, if that's a good color, you know, if that's something I want to stick with. And if I don't like it, that's easy to fix. You know, I say, you know, I really, you know, this is too light of a brown. I really would prefer in this quadrant to use something that was darker or had more, you know, something different. And what I really want you guys to just understand is that you can always go back and change things really easily. And that's a really fun part of the art making process. So don't get frustrated and don't get, you know, just feeling like you can't, you know, you don't have to just give up if you're not finding like you're not finding the right color you're looking for, or it's just not, you know, it's just not, you know, I really like things to pop right off the canvas, and I like colorful art and I like colorful projects. And so with this picture today, I'm obviously looking for, you know, lots of color to bring into my eyeball. And obviously, you know, using red or something is pretty bold. It's not a natural color to see in someone's face that bright, but that's what we can do here with art. We can kind of really, you know, exaggerate some of those colors and some of those features. And like I said, guys, eyes have a lot of expression, and people, when they look into your eyes, even when you're talking with your mouth, they're looking at your eyes, and your eyes, you know, they communicate information. And so it's a powerful, powerful tool. And as an artist, being able to, you know, connect that emotional communication point is a very powerful thing. And you know, I love to do eyes. It's a very important thing in my own art, and something that I practice every day almost as an artist. And I encourage you to practice, practice, practice. You know, all of the projects that we do here on this class at the Palo Alto Art Center are about getting you guys to sit down and do some practice. And then you get to kind of see, what do I have to work on? You know, how was my drawing? How was my eye that I did? How do I feel about my drawing? You know, and if you're just like a math problem, if you're feeling a little shy, or you're just feeling not very confident about your drawing skills, you know, you don't have to, you know, have somebody tell you, hey, you know, go draw this or go draw that. You can go, you know, practice on your own and challenge yourself. And one of the great ways I like to do is actually, even in a mirror, is to go practice drawing your own face and drawing your own eye, and you can be your own model. And the eye is just a really great way to practice some of your skills, guys. I'm not sure what kind of time we're doing today. We're kind of off the beaten path since we started a little late. And again, guys, I apologize for that. We are going to be continuing these projects, and I really look forward to hearing everyone's feedback and seeing examples of some of the art that you've made. We've had a lot of people sending in their projects to us, and it's been so inspiring to me. You know, I'm at home just like everyone else is, and it's really great to see everybody having these small wins with their family. You know, I know we're all trying our best here to make the most of this situation. But I feel like I really, really believe in art as a way to kind of, you know, change gears and to stay positive and to stay motivated. And I really appreciate everyone being here every week. We've been having a really great time. Please let the Palo Alto Art Center know that you appreciate seeing these kind of classes. Everyone's working really hard over there to kind of give you guys some great art content. So I hope you will continue to support them, support artists like myself and other teachers who, this is our livelihood and this is what we do. And we want to bring you guys great things at the Palo Alto Art Center, so I hope you will support them as well.
Hey Sam, a question has come up in the chat about what other kinds of special glue you use. You mentioned an adhesive at the beginning and people are wondering what it is.
Okay. Yeah, I usually don't mention it just because I'm still having quite a bit of trouble getting some of my own, art supplies. There's two products that I can recommend for professional artists or people just wanting to elevate past the Elmer's glue status. That is, one product is made by Golden Medium, and that can be purchased at all the local art stores, and as well as like at Michael's and on Amazon. And there's another product by Liquidex, and I will show you just that because that's what I have on stock today. Is I buy this in the big gallon jugs. As you can see, it's kind of like a big milk jug. And it's really what it is a clear acrylic, and it looks like a big jug of milk. And it goes on your magazines clear. It has a kind of a milky consistency, but it dries clear, and it leaves your magazines preserved kind of within that layer. I use it on the back and I use it on the top, and then I go over and we do a final coat over magazine paper. And it's very, it's very heavy duty. Gloves are definitely recommended, and don't wear your nice gear when you're doing this because it will stain and ruin your clothes. So it's a great product. It's the highest quality product that you can buy on the market for doing collage and keeping your collages to look and last after, and the other thing is, if you don't have this at home, most people won't, you can't get that at Home Depot or anything like that, but you can get it at the art specialty stores. But you also can do a lot of what I'm recommending for people is to do your project with the Elmer's glue, guys. And then if you have, if you feel like, wow, I outdid myself, this is the best I have ever done, and you want to finish this, you can then go ahead and pour a pouring, so very liberal amount of, like a size like this, I would say almost like a, a silver dollar's worth of, and then you can spread that around. You can spread that onto all the nooks and crannies. You can see as I glued this, guys, there's little, little flaps that flap up, and I can come in there and I can do that with the Elmer's glue. But the way I do it with my larger collage projects is I go and I do this big pour, and what it does is it saturates all through the nooks and crannies there, and really seals your artwork, and it's a great way to do that. But it is expensive, and a gallon jar like that costs $80 or almost $100 at this point. So it's an investment, and if you're doing collage for the first time, you may not want to make that kind of investment right away. But it's a great product, and I very much recommend either Liquidex or Golden Mediums for collage. And they do have, there's variations of glues. They have, like, gloss and high gloss and semi-gloss and pastes and all kinds of great stuff, and lots of videos that you guys can look up online through their website to kind of explain, I think, in detail about what kind of projects work best for what glues and stuff like that, but I won't get into all that. But it's a really great product, and I recommend it highly.
Thanks, Sam. We have another question, which is, what layers are light and what layers are darker in the collage you're working on?
Very good question. I like to bring variation, and I think it makes for an interesting composition. Most things in nature are not flat, and so a good example I could give you is that I'm working with two different kinds of green, and I pulled these out of a National Geographic magazine, but these are obviously, this is from one piece of paper, and there's obviously some variation here. This is a photograph, and it's a photograph of a I don't know, a rice plain, or it's something like that. But the reason why I like to break down my squares into smaller and smaller kind of diced cubes, you could say, is because of that variation. And when I put the paper on the canvas, you know, there's this natural variation that takes place. And because I like to work with photographs from nature, there's this natural, you know, dark and light, and a little bit of, you know, it's a composite. And if you know, there's a very famous painter named Georges Seurat, who's one of the most famous impressionists, and his whole style of work was the idea that we look at a subject, and our eye does this kind of work where we blend the darks and the lights, and we kind of generalize with our eyes, you know, one color or another. But in real nature, there's nothing that's just blue or just red. So just to steal from nature, as it were, you know, I use a variation of color, and what I think it really ends up doing is, at a certain, you know, just like Georges Seurat, you break down these colors into these tiny little fractions, and you start to not be able to differentiate what's dark and what's light, and your eye starts to generalize it, and it becomes a very complex picture. And even a simple eyeball like this starts to take on this little variation. And as you can see through these little tans, there's reds in here, there's, you know, some orange and gray, and you know, it's like a brindle on a dog, or the fur of an animal. You know, if you look for the actual color, even on a single hair of an animal, you know, you start to see, oh, there's a white and a red, and, you know, so we're just borrowing from nature, and again, you know, curiosity, exploration, to kind of see where that line, what you can kind of get away with, and what you can kind of do to make your art, you know, stand out with that in mind. Any more questions for us, Lucy? That was great. Love those questions.
I'm wondering if you could tell us on the eyeball which sort of circles you're doing lighter and which ones you're doing darker, with the circles and the ovals.
I think I added, in this particular one, I think I added one extra circle. I'll focus on that right now. This first tiny little circle, I'm just gonna do as a white circle. The smallest little dime size circle. And I'm just gonna go in there with a little cutout, smaller than a stamp. And I'm gonna fill that in just right away, the first circle. And then I'm gonna go around this whole second large sphere here, and I'm gonna fill that in with some really dark paper right now. And I'm just gonna do that real fast for you guys and show you how I like to work, which is sometimes when I'm not just talking, I like to work quickly. And I will show you this second circle can be filled in pretty quickly. And again, guys, I think if you have the patience to break down paper into the smaller and smaller units, as opposed to, you know, using a big square like something like this and then just slapping it on, I think you start to, you know, for me, what I see people make the mistake doing is just not being very good with staying in the lines. And if you use these bigger chunks of paper, you slap these right on, you kind of are going over your image, and then you're getting things get a little sloppy, and then your final product doesn't look so clean. And so it doesn't really matter what size squares you use. Sometimes I will use a long strip like this to make a part of the inner, but as long as I'm kind of not being so sloppy with my large paper squares that I'm actually ruining the underlying drawing that I did. So just be careful of that. I love to work fast, but I also like, to stay detail oriented, guys. It's easy with magazines when you're having fun to get real loose with this. But those drawings that we did in the beginning are super important. And if you can kind of keep those as the structure of your art, it will only benefit you at the end of your project, okay? And so I'm doing this iris. I'm actually going with this darker green iris, Lucy. I think it's gonna look cool. And then maybe I'm gonna do some dark midnight blue in there as well. But all of my pupil colors are gonna be really dark. And the only thing that I'm gonna have left here is that little glint in the eye. And I'm actually gonna make a little notch so I can go around that glint and not have to recut that whole piece of paper over again. If that makes any sense. And I'm almost done with this inner portion, and I will show you guys that when I'm finished here. But as I'm working, guys, I really start to build up. As you can see, this becomes this messy project. We've talked about that too. And you start to kind of have this whole palette that you start to build around you. And as I see around me now, as I'm starting to work, I have my reds over here, and I have my yellow greens over here, and I have some midnight blues and grays over here, and some loose other kind of stuff on this side. And that helps me because it's kind of like having a large paint palette. And as I'm working, I can kind of go between things. And sometimes I like to work on one thing at a time, but honestly, there are moments when I'm flipping around and I get diverted into doing something else. It's really great to stay semi-organized. I like to kind of build a group of colors around in certain particular areas so that when I'm working fast, I don't have to search so much. But that being said, I do like to bounce around a little bit, and I think that actually can be fun because it keeps things spontaneous, and I always have to remind myself that this is for fun and this is not work. And if you're feeling like you're struggling, and if you're feeling like, this is hard, that's a normal feeling, and it also can be a good indicator that maybe you should just take 5 minutes. I love to do art and talk with my friends, or put a movie on or a show, and just kind of be working and doing things in the background, because it's really one of those things where I like to almost let my mind just wander. And if anybody has ever done any kind of like knitting or that kind of thing, you kind of can allow yourself to just to stop thinking so directly about this and just kind of enjoy the experience and not be so critical. And there's always, like I said, guys, good time to come back to a project and look at things and look at what worked and look at maybe this didn't work and I thought this was going to be darker and now it looks light, but it's okay. We can always go back and we can always kind of reassess, and we can always pull it away, or we can go add to it, or we can start over again. And magazines are really great because they don't cost much money. The materials that we're using don't cost a lot of money. But as you can see, Lucy, we can see that this eye is just already starting to develop. And to answer that previous question, what's really fun about this is that I use this two-tone, and it's kind of an odd tone because I'm using a gray and a green. And a gray and a green, you kind of like, I don't know if those work together so well. It doesn't seem to match very well. But you can see they're both these very dark tones. And this navy green, along with this kind of very ominous, almost smoke gray, with that glint in the eye, really gives this appearance of light, kind of this is not being just a flat surface. And so that's my jumping off point. And so my next step, guys, is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do that blue eye, like I said. And from that point, I think I'm going to let you guys jump off on your own. I'll finish off this blue. I'll take any more questions that we have. And then I think you guys have enough detailed information to kind of start on your own project today. But I, again, really love this eye project. Eyes are a really great practice in so many different ways in your art creating skills. And I can't wait to see what everybody creates, because I think this is just a really fun project. no matter what your age or your skill level. This is a really fun thing to do.
Dan,
And,
could you just talk about the spaces closer to the almond shape if you're doing those light or dark?
sure. Let's see here. So let's see. I have these 4 quadrants on the outer edges, and this is my opportunity on this one to add. I'm going to do it almost like what's the game, like the Simon game, the memory game. I'm going to kind of do some realistic. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to do almost like a realistic tan kind of skin tone around this eyelid. But on these 4 quadrants here, I'm going to do red, tan, I don't know, maybe we'll find some like either like black, something really kind of strong and bold, and then like blue. And then, you know, and I'm going to do that just because I like color and I want this to be a colorful project. You don't have to do it that way. You know, you could, you know, there's one of my students in one of my classes is doing it, all her portraits are less colorful, but she does really amazing work with kind of blending in these kind of softer earth tones. So this is just my example, and I don't necessarily mean to make you guys have to follow my instructions just the way I'm doing it. I really want you to be able to make your own creative decisions about this. So, you know, instead of the red and the blue, you could go, you know, we could do, you know, this earth kind of hay color and this more green grass here. And then we could continue that, and we could do like the checkerboard kind of thing where we could do greens on the opposite edges with the more tan colors on these 2 quadrants here. That will give you a much more realistic looking eye as opposed to this bright red color that I chose today for some reason. But then as you kind of get into, you know, some of the subtleties, you can play with some of that, and again, I allow you. I think that I just really encourage you guys to try things, try to see what you can get away with, and if it's okay to fail, it's okay to kind of look at it and go, you know, I think I'm going to do something different with that later. That I like that, but I'm going to do something different next. So. Again, it's just really what you can kind of find with your magazines that you're looking through. Some people don't have a lot of choices, and that can kind of give you, you know, you kind of have to work with what you have, and that's another big part of it too. Just working with what you have is part of the creative process. Right, and as I'm just putting on some final. Again, I just have to, the last little piece I'm gonna just add to you guys is again, you know, it's very easy to get a little bit sloppy with some of the lines that you created. And if you feel like I'm going over the lines too much and I see that I'm doing that consistently, pull your magazine paper right off the paper. If you see that something isn't working and you immediately just decide that didn't work, don't let the glue sit there and kind of dry and like hem and haw about deciding that something doesn't work. I'll put something down and immediately look at it and go, nope, that was wrong, and that's okay. And it's better to make a decision about it immediately than to wait and think about it in more ways than one. And so if you've put something down and you decide, wow, I'm going over the lines, maybe you need to break your pieces down into smaller and smaller squares to stay within the line. You know, again, if you're getting outside of those lines, I think you guys really have you start to lose some of the really nice drawing that you did underneath, and then it's really hard to get back to that point. So being accurate with where you put your magazines down, and then also just deciding if something isn't working, just decide right away that didn't work, and don't overthink it. Just move forward and kind of put it to rest. Get rid of it and then move on. So that happens to me all the time as an artist. I'm always kind of deciding, did that work or did that not work? And half the time, or the majority of the time, it's a hard problem. You know, you have to decide, hey, that didn't work, and that's okay. So that's part of the fun of being an artist. All right. Well, I'm gonna leave you guys here, I guess. Thank you all for being here today. I wish I could finish this in the time that we had, but a lot of work done actually for where we started and where we ended here. I will post this finished portrait. Again, this is my other eye that I did this morning, and as you can see, I could do a nose here, and I'd have a mouth and a face, and I might have a whole face to do here. So that's pretty fun, guys. I encourage you to do a couple of these if you have the time and you have the resources. Have all of your kids do one eye each, and you could have a lot of fun projects over the weekend. Lucy, thank you very much again for being with us. Paige and everyone at Palo Alto Art Center, thank you guys. Please check out my Samuel S. Price is my Instagram handle. And I have lots of information about other workshops and classes I offer, and all of the art that you see behind me, and lots of details about what I do. And I'd love to see you, and love to work with you, and I'd love to see what you created this week. So thanks, guys, and we'll see you next time. And we'll sign off from here.